Welcome to Chaos, Courage and Coffee, the podcast for anyone who's felt like on the outside I'm holding it together, but inside I'm struggling.
And we do it with honesty, heart, and just enough coffee to get through the day.
Hello, Vanessa. How are you today?
Hi, Greg. I'm good. I want to talk to you about something today, and I want to share this with everybody. I'm going to call it solving the wrong problem because I'm really busy and I'm busy doing lots of things. But quite often, what I see with my clients is they're busy and they're working really hard and they're trying to solve a problem. Now, the view is when I solve this, everything will be sorted. But what concerns me quite often is they're so focused on the wrong problem. And then they're hanging all their hopes on when I solve this problem, everything will be sorted. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's disappointing for you because I know that if you solve that, that's not going to help you. And you know what? I fall for this as well. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and I think it's a really important distinction that we make that between the big problem, maybe it's a big problem, little problem, or the source of the problem, not the symptom. So if we could look at it in medical terms, I suppose, using the language I just did, and we can talk about what is the underlying cause rather than just what do we see or the symptom that we're experiencing. And it's no good fixing the symptom, the runny nose, if we're still experiencing hay fever and it's only going to come back again.
Well, I have I don't okay, little plug here. I did a talk on happiness a few years ago, and this was something that I used in it because I'd taken my daughter to the doctor because she had all these red dots or spots on her. And I asked for some cream to fix it, can you fix it? So he gave me some cream and it was great because they went away, but then more came up elsewhere. And so I'd asked him the wrong question. I'd said, please, can you give me something to fix those? But what I hadn't done was ask for something to fix the cause of those. So it's exactly what you're saying. It's a little bit like whack-a-mole. We could keep going, putting cream, arms, legs, feet, eyes, wherever. But unless we get to what's causing it, we're putting a lot of energy into the symptom and not the cause. Now, that's a very simplistic thing, and you might think, well, that's not very energy consuming. When you translate that to a problem in your life, it becomes a lot of wasted energy and a lot of disappointment, to be honest, when if you do fix it, it doesn't change your life in the way that you hoped.
And you end up back where you started anyway. You can fix this problem right now, but that problem is only going to repeat itself because you haven't resolved the cause, as you say, the root
Root of it.
the bigger problem. Sorry?
Yeah, the root of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you where this plays out a lot. It plays out with people who are dating or having relationships. When your relationship falls apart, you think, well, that person was different. It was a different reason. But actually, what happens is it's actually a pattern that there was something the same in it that you picked. And so you actually did the same thing again, the same thing again. And the next time you think, right, the next person I pick, they're not going to be addicted to alcohol, or they're not going to be this, they're not going to be that. And so you pick someone completely different, but you don't because it just looks different. And actually, it's still the same underlying thing. So you have to really, if you want to go past this, address the underlying thing.
Yeah, if you're experiencing the same problem over and over again, it's probably not an external thing, it's an internal thing. And that's where I think a lot of people miss it. And as you say, when we're talking about your mum, sometimes you say that mums want to fix their children, but is it a child problem or is it a mum problem? And if the mum sometimes, and I'm not blaming one or the other, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's the things that mums do that lead to the behaviors of the children. And it's not just in this circumstance. This is in our relationships. It's in some of the things our veterans experience, not happy in the workplace. So they've moved from job to job to job, but it's not a workplace issue. It's an internal, I don't fit issue. And they haven't adapted to working in that, the different environment, the non-military environment. So we're chasing the symptoms, but we're not chasing the cause.
That's interesting because you said if the same problem is coming up again and again, then you've got to look at yourself. But here's the tricky thing. You don't see it as the same problem coming up. This is why we don't think, hey, it's me. Not, and also because we don't want to think it's ourselves. We don't see it. It looks different each time. So the spots, that's obvious. Same spots, they look the same. But it's actually like, for example, say stress. Stress shows up in the body in different ways. So we don't necessarily think it's the stress because one day we're having like racing heart. The next day we've got a rash. Those are different problems. Okay, so we don't recognize it as the same problem. So we don't attribute it to the same underlying cause. That's why we keep fixing the problems.
Yeah, very true. And so how do we then identify the underlying cause? What does it take for us to figure out that we are merely treating symptoms and we're not treating the cause of the symptoms?
Well, do you want to know the short answer to that, Brett?
Please tell me.
You get a life coach because it's not straightforward. And on top of that, we are not really wanting to look at ourselves as us having a problem because it's quite hard to attribute it to ourselves. And it's even harder to be able to step out of ourselves to see it, to see our way to fixing it. That is exactly why we have life coaches. I know that sounds like a plug, but it actually is the truth. It is tricky. So what you want to do, the first thing is the awareness, is be aware of it. And rather than saying this is a different problem, ask yourself, in what way have I had this problem before? What's the commonality? Not I'm the commonality, but what's the commonality between a lot of my problems? Because you know what? It'll cost you a lot less in life coaching if we just have one cause and lots of problems. Otherwise, you can go to counseling forever and fix all your problems, and it'll cost you a lot of money. You come to a life coach, we'll get to the root of it, we'll solve them all at once.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the being able to look at the problem or the broader issues from an external perspective. Because as you say, we don't like to look at ourselves and point the finger at ourselves and say, the problem is me. So having somebody who can be honest, it can be confronting. Don't get me wrong. When somebody's telling you you are the problem or this is the thing that you're doing to create this problem over and over again in your life, that can be really confronting and it can be difficult for some people to accept. But having somebody who's there to support you to say, this is the problem and this is what we can do about it, or this is the problem and this is what needs to happen to make that change, can be really, really powerful and can help in a way that sometimes friendships can't help you with. A friend can do the same things and point out, well, hey, have you looked at yourself? But they run the risk, if you're relying on a friendship to do that, there's a risk that honesty, sometimes that brutal honesty, can damage that relationship, that friendship. And so people don't want to put that at risk. And that's why a life coach in particular, someone who's not worried about the friendship, can be so brutally honest and say that the problem is you, and this is what you're doing, and this is what we can do to fix it. It's not just about the honesty, it's about the solutions that a life coach can bring that a friend doesn't necessarily have access or knowledge of.
Well, luckily, life coaches don't actually bluntly say you are the problem, because we would probably just back off. And what we do is help you come to that realization for yourself, because it's about learning for yourself. But I have to throw in one of my favorite quotes, since you've mentioned that we need someone outside of ourselves. And if I've mentioned this quote before, I do not mind saying it again and again. It is like being inside the jar, trying to read the label on the outside. Okay. It's very hard to step outside yourself. That's why it's quite often you need somebody on the outside. That's where friends come in. Yeah. You don't always need professionals. You just need sometimes someone to reflect it back, because you can't see what they're seeing. Not when you're in it, when you've got your own emotions and experiences and your lens and opinion and perspective on it. So it's no, what's the word I want? It's not like, I'm not putting you down by saying you can't see it. I'm saying it's human behavior. It's human nature that it's really, really hard to see things objectively sometimes when we're in it. So, very helpful to talk at least to a friend, if not a professional, to just help you see it from the outside.
Absolutely. It's not a criticism. And coaches aren't critics. We'll tell you when you're doing something wrong, but we're not here to criticize. We're here to support and encourage.
Okay, so I don't want this to turn into a plug for coaches.
No, you're
People
right.
to get stuff from today. So let's recap that we quite often spend a lot of time fixing a lot of problems in the hope that that's going to move us forward to the other side. And our time could be better spent if we find out what's underneath it. What's the real like cause, not all the symptoms. So that's your aim, guys, is when you're having problems, what's the common thing? Even if they appear completely different, see if you can find the common thing, because that will be the root of it. And that's where you want to start addressing. It will save your time and energy.
Yeah, it's no good taking painkillers to fix a broken arm.
It might make you feel better at the time.
It's not going to fix the break, is it? So we need to repair the break. We need to delve deeper, find the root cause, the underlying problem, and fix that one. And then there's the higher level, the more surface level problems. The pain will take care of itself as the bone heals.
Yeah, that's the important bit as well. The little problems go away once you've delved down. So that's why it's actually okay to have multiple problems, and don't stress about it. Because if you go down beneath that and get to what's behind it, you're just solving one problem, not lots of problems. So we're here to save you time and energy, guys.
And focusing on the one problem, the deeper problem, can actually relieve a lot of stress, concern, because we don't need to worry so much about all the little things. And it is, I think, one of the things we do as people, as humans, is we tend to focus on little things and not the bigger, more important things. And so having that, again, that somebody, whether it's a friend or whatever, telling you that don't sweat the little stuff. I'll say this quite a lot. Don't sweat the little stuff. Focus on the bigger things, and the little things will take care of themselves sometimes.
But it does feel easier to focus on the little things. So that might be one reason we do, because if you focus and you solve a lot of little things, you actually feel you're making progress. Now, as humans, we like progress. So you feel you're making progress. However, we're just talking big picture. You haven't actually got to the root of it. So you're going to keep having lots of little things.
Yeah, very true. So fix the big things.
Mm.
Identify the real problem.
Yeah, and that's really hard. So maybe, I mean, seriously, truthfully, you need a life coach quite often to help you with that. But this is for you to help yourself at home. So once you've created your awareness about what the pattern is, what else can we give people, Brett, to help them work out what might be underneath that?
Well, I think you just touched on it there. It's about patterns. Um, when we're experiencing the same things, even though they look different at the surface, what is the commonality between these things that keep happening? And when we find the commonality, that is the similarities, even if they look so, If we talk about, you mentioned before, alcoholics, drug users, we can talk about gamblers, anybody that has any sort of, and I'm using this very generally, so please don't take this as, the be all and end all. But if we're falling into relationships that have a similar pattern, even though it looks different, when we reflect back on it and we can find those patterns, then what is it about this that supports that or identifies or relates to that particular thing? Is it the passion that this person has for that? Is it the lifestyle that they lead? And that can identify what we're missing or what we are doing to engage with people of that type. And so then we can look at ourselves and identify either what we're doing or what we are missing that we're looking for in our lives that we can try to solve or do differently. So it is about pattern recognition, not just identifying the behaviors, but the underlying patterns that go with that.
Yeah. And you touched on, I mean, the one which is, the blatant one about, oh, they're addictions. Oh, I pick someone with addictions. Now, that's quite an obvious thing, but you do hear people say, why do I always pick the guy who doesn't treat me well? Okay. So that now we're looking at a different pattern that's a little more discreet. And I think that's the thing is like we could probably all get the very obvious patterns. So what you're looking for is a not so obvious pattern. It's
Yeah.
kind of hiding a little bit. So if you maybe start with the assumption that everything or just about everything is part of a pattern and your job is to work out what the pattern is.
Yeah. And if we don't, no, we just keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. We keep experiencing the same problems. I believe personally that life happens for us to learn what we need to advance and grow. And when we don't learn from the problems and issues in our lives, then we're doomed to repeat them. And the saying in history, if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. And I think it's the same with our lives personally. If we don't learn from the things that happen to us, we are going to repeat those things over and over again until we learn the lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting, and I mean, I can relate that. I like the history one because they always say history repeats itself. There's another one that I've seen which actually makes me laugh is when we go into a recession and interest rates are really high and they know that they need to drop them, but they don't want to drop them too soon. And then I knew they would wait until it's too late, and then they drop it, and everyone's in a mess because interest rates were too high. And then when they dropped it and they go, "Oh, I think we did it too late." And I'm like, "Hello, I knew you were gonna do this. This is your pattern. This is exactly what you were gonna do." And it's like, because we're not learning from it. So yeah, it does. And that's why you wanna look at all the times this has happened, because believe you me, whatever's going on for you, it has happened so many times in your life. That pattern is on repeat. There wouldn't be anyone here who's gone, "Oh no, this is one out of the box." No, it's not. It's a pattern. And unfortunately, to tell you guys, your pattern was set up when you were way young as a child. Okay. Like, I think under 7, we set up most of these patterns. That's when we're in absorption mode and we set it all up. So, no, what's happened to you today, yesterday, it is all part of a pattern. So, it's about seeing the pattern.
It is. And I agree, set up when we're very little. And it is all about these patterns, but I just want to be a little bit kind or perhaps a little bit generous, however you want to look at it, and tell people that it's not your fault. You don't do these things deliberately. A lot of it is subconscious. It's happening without your full awareness that you are repeating these patterns. So please don't take this as criticism on anybody. It's okay. We all have these things, as Vanessa said, we all have these things that we do, that we repeat. I'm guilty of it. Vanessa's guilty of it. It's, as we said, it's about learning, identify the pattern, learn what it is, and then fix it and move on. It's about that growth, which is why
I reiterate too, totally not your fault. It's about humans and how we learn. Everybody has set up the pattern unintentionally because that's the way humans work, because we're trying to save energy. So we do things subconsciously. So it's not at all your fault, but you can make it into something you can, take hold of, drive, change by being aware of it, rather than just thinking, oh, these things just always happen to me, and then like leaving it and moving on.
use it as motivation, not a handbrake.
Yeah.
Use it to drive you forward. Use it as motivation for change and personal growth, not a woe is me, blame. It's
But let's circle back and let's just see where we got to, because I started with the thought that we're too busy solving the wrong problem. And it bothers me because it's a lot of energy. And what we're trying to do is help you see what problem is the real problem that you want to be putting your energy into solving, because it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of energy, and it's going to solve a lot of other problems at the same time.
Yep. And we also identified that to identify the bigger problem or the underlying problem, we need to look at the patterns of behavior or the patterns of problems, even though they might appear at surface level to be similar. Completely different. There will be similarities. And so where we can identify the patterns that can lead us to identifying the real problem in
Hey,
ourselves.
I got a really good tip. Okay. Here we are, guys. I would love you to do this. Write down a list of all your problems. Find them. Find 10, 15. I know we don't normally want to look at the negatives. List them. And here's a plug for AI. Sorry for people who don't like it. Put them into Chat GPT or whichever AI you use and say, what's the pattern behind these problems? And I would love to hear what you get, because I don't know if that'll work, but I think that's a really cool idea that's going to save you a lot of effort.
I think that is a really cool idea. I might have to try that one myself.
Now we're going to end this because we both want to go try it.
I will paraphrase. I will just add to that or expand on it just a little bit. When you do this, put as much detail as you can into each of the problems, because it will give more information for the AI to work with, and you're more likely to get it more accurate.
Or tell it to ask, say, if you need more help, ask me questions. If you need more help to identify the pattern,
Well,
let you do it.
here we are now telling people how to use AI.
I know. And we could get into trouble, but I tell you what, for the people it helps, I'm happy with that. I don't care.
So, so to summarize, getting away a little bit, don't focus on understand what the smaller problems are, but find the underlying link between them. When you can identify the commonality, the common cause of all of the problems, then we can start to identify that. Sometimes a friend can be of benefit, but a life coach can also help and provide solutions to move forward, strategies to address those problems and change. It is not a criticism that you have these problems. It is a part of human nature that we are blind to our internals, and that external perspective can be absolutely invaluable in coming up with some of these. And I know we talked about AI, and
We can gloss over that bit now. We don't want to repeat it and get ourselves into more trouble. That was a wonderful summary. Thank you very much, Brett. And thanks for today. And thank you to everybody for listening, and let us know your feedback.
absolutely. Take care, and we will speak to you all next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us today on Chaos, Courage and Coffee. Remember, you're not alone, and you don't have to figure it all out at once. What part of today's conversation stood out for you?
This podcast is about showing up in the mess, not waiting until it's all sorted out. If today helped, share it with someone else who might need it too.
And if you're navigating your own version of chaos, we'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment, message us, or join the conversation.
We'll be back soon with more honest talk, less pressure, and just enough courage to get through whatever's next.
See you next time on Chaos, Courage and Coffee.